from the year 1952 in the Evening Star. Krauss, who mastered both forms of bowling, tells why he rates tenpins ahead of ducks. By Rod Thomas. Tenpin bowling in Washington nearly joined the dodo bird in the period between the World Wars, while duckpins flourished as never before. But the influx of federal workers during the last conflict brought a revival of the big ball game. Today, the Washington Tenpin Association is recognized by the American Bowling Congress as an exceptionally live unit of the vast organization. Bowling breeds fraternity as a rule, but there is none between the capital's tenpin and duckpin shooters. No enmity either. They simply seem to have nothing in common. Says the transplanted tenpinner, when the bowling season ends back home, sometimes we play at duckpins. And the duckpinner, tenpins is a flock shooter's game. Where's the skill? For enlightenment on the relative allure of duckpins and tenpins, we sought out a man who can speak with peculiar authority. Harry F. Krauss, 69-year-old native Washingtonian, excelled at both games. In 1904, Krauss and Charlie Spees, rolling as doubles, became the only citizens of this city ever to win a championship in the American Bowling Congress. At the time, and for a decade to come, Krauss was the top tenpinner in the area. Then, when duckpins superseded tenpins, he was accounted the best in that game too. One night, dividing his efforts between duckpins and tenpins in league matches rolled simultaneously on adjoining lanes, he shot the season's high sets in both branches of the sport. His reputation in both was national. Which did he prefer? Tenpins. Why? Because it pays off on accuracy. Doesn't duckpins? Not nearly as much. How come? Except occasionally, an accurate hit in tenpins will bring down all the pins you're entitled to. The weight of the ball in proportion to the weight of the pin tends to assure this. In duckpins, seemingly perfect hits frequently leave pins standing. I believe that this is due many times to the lightness of the ball, which is affected more than the tenpin ball by the little weight differences and defects in pins. A skilled tenpin bowler, Krauss said, usually knows by the time the ball is halfway to the pins whether he's due for a strike. It was at this moment, after a good delivery, he said, that I got my biggest enjoyment in the game. It was something like the feeling that comes from a job well done. The strike itself was almost an anticlimax. In duckpins, it's different. You can tell fairly early if the ball will be in the pocket, but you know that, no matter how accurate the hit, the chances are against the strike. I was happy in duckpins when a pocket hit left me just a spare break. Although a 16-pound tenpin ball weighs more than 4 times as much as a duckpin ball, duckpins is a much more strenuous game, according to Krauss. In tenpins, he said, the ball does the work. In duckpins, the ball must be thrown. The average duckpin bowler will exert himself considerably more than the average tenpin bowler. On January 2 and 3, 1908, Krauss bowled more tenpins in 24 hours than a member of a 10-team league would roll in a season. To be exact, he reeled off 118 strings. The league schedule would call for 90. It was a world record for endurance on the Mapleways up to that time. Also, it was a thorough-going test, quite typical of Harry Krauss, later to be labeled the Walter Johnson of bowling, not only because of his ability, but personal qualities. Throughout the 24 hours, he gave his best. His league average was 200. His average for the endurance stretch, 195. According to the Star's report of the feat, Krauss rolled the 16-pound ball 1,941 times, thus heaving 31,056 pounds, more than 14 tons. The streak was punctuated by big scores like 246 in the 8th game and 245 in the 32nd. In the 61st and 62nd games, he put together 232 and 236. The score of his last string was 204. How did he feel at the finish? Actually, better than when I started. A severe cold I had at the start was gone when I finished. A normal night's rest followed, and there was no change from his routine the next day. But, Krauss said, I couldn't have lasted 24 hours in duck pens and given an honest performance.